Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
Hello and welcome to the All In Podcast. We are back. It is after MSI play-ins, and we have so many games to talk about. It is the MSI main stage group. We pretty much went through most of the bracket stage, and we just have kind of the last couple of series to go. It is a long tournament, but I'm not complaining at all. How you doing, Kevin? Tell us a little bit about what you're up to and where you're at.
Yeah, so I'm in Hawaii right now and on Oahu. We're like halfway through our trip right now, so I'm doing pretty well. It's been a great trip, and meanwhile, the games have been great too. I haven't been able to catch most of them live, but just catching up with them when I have a time. Honestly, it's been an incredible tournament so far.
Yeah, you're in Hawaii on vacation. So is other teams on vacation nowadays. But it has been an incredible tournament. I actually can't believe just how good this has been. I think this has been like the best MSI we've ever had. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's partially due to the format and due to the competitiveness of the teams. So let's just recap. We were at play-ins last time we did an episode, and FlyQuest was eliminated. That was the LCS relevant news, and we were kind of looking forward to what would happen in the main stage. So let's just start with North America, okay? Because that's where we are. That's what our podcast is based on. Team Liquid had their ups and downs, and I would say overall it was mostly positive. They started off the tournament getting kind of 3-0 stomped by Top Esports. Bit unfortunate, but we did bounce back later. But let's just start there. Did you catch that series? What did you think about Team
Yes.
Liquid versus Top Esports? We don't have to go too much into it. It was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, it was a one-sided affair. Nothing was below 27 minutes in length. Honestly, what I thought about it was Liquid tried a lot of the strategies they tried domestically, and then it completely got one-sidedly destroyed. I think one thing that this is a spoiler for later, but one thing that I thought at the time but became reaffirmed later was that I think that Top Esports' bot lane just like was better,
Yep.
especially with the picks they were doing. Like there was such a large gap that I actually was not prepared at all for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely think Jackie Love and Mako. I mean, they're both world champions. They're some of the best you can buy on the market. Really insane. Yeah, no shame in losing to them. I think that honestly, we still played okay against Top Esports considering how it should be a massive skill gap. I think as we go farther into the tournament, that we can kind of talk about is there a skill gap, right? How much is it based on mentality and what you can kind of cook up, right? Like G2 can cook up some crazy stuff. And yeah, it doesn't matter that they're in a worse region, right? It doesn't matter that they have worse ping or worse solo queue. But let's be honest, NA does have it the worst out of all of them. We have the worst ping. We have 60 ping versus 30 ping in EU and like 5 ping in Korea. And we have, the worst solo queue and the smallest player base. So that's the copium right there. But let's move on to the next series. And this is where it gets good. This is where it becomes, our favorite MSI in a long time. Um, Team Liquid versus Fnatic. So Fnatic, they play Gen G, and they had a fairly competitive series considering the circumstances. Gen G 3-0's Fnatic, but all three of the games are pretty close. They have a lot of fighting power. And then they do fall down to the lower bracket and they face against Team Liquid. And I think all signs were pointing that this was gonna be a Fnatic favorite series. Like it's just you can't really cope about it, right? Fnatic has a close series against the number one Korean seed. We have a really bad series against the number two Chinese seed, but that's not how the picture is painted. So talk to us about what happened between TLL and Fnatic.
Yeah, so going into it, Fnatic had the competitive series against Gen G. We all thought there was going to be a stomp. I think what really happened here was that TL, two parts. TL's bot lane completely outclassed Noah. I'm not saying Noah Jun, I'm just saying Noah. Was
Yeah,
an extreme outclassing. I think this guy has been underperforming all tournament. He didn't have
yeah.
a great spring split either, but honestly, his debut season was good. I think this guy is apparently one of those like solo queue monsters that is incapable of translating it to stage, and it's actually gotten worse as he's gotten more experience in his career.
Mm,
On the other hand, I would say Liquid's macro was like we used to joke, not joke, we used to say like without any real justification because we hadn't seen it on the international stage that they had world class macro, and like I think it was on display. I think for the most part, when Humanoid couldn't pop off, it wasn't close. I think Liquid actually every game was 30 minutes or less, and
Yeah.
there was I think Razork underperformed too, but that's partially just because of how solid Team Liquid was across the board. So I'm just like those are the broad strokes.
Yeah, I definitely think Noah was pretty invisible most of the tournament. He did have a bad spring split, but he had a really good playoffs for Fnatic in their domestic region. But he didn't show up internationally at all. And I mean, if we're talking about ADCs in the series, like Yeon was him. Yeon was crazy good. Okay, I think that there's a lot of like plus sides and downsides you could talk about Fnatic TL. The most shining star for me was 100% Yeon. We were talking about this guy during playoffs that they were probably the best bot lane in LCS, and we were saying that Yeon was probably the best ADC, and he proved it all the way up to playoffs. And then he goes into this tournament. And he's the main character in this entire series, and he was insane. His Lucian was really cracked, right? Super aggressive, just really high APM, really good mechanics. And this is the Yeon that we were promised like years ago. He's still like very green, right? He's not a rookie technically, but he's been playing for a year and a half professionally. Um, and finally, he gets to show what he's made of, like his second international tournament ever. So, like, that's NA talent right there. That's awesome that we have this guy in our region, and this is what we've needed for a long time. So
I
pretty
mean, I
awesome stuff.
100% agree. You know how I feel about it. Like, I was flaming Jan and APA earlier this season, and literally since that week, they have just proven me wrong every time at every corner. I'm gonna say it now. Like in this tournament and last Worlds, Jan has done more internationally in terms of show of form than Doublelift has ever done internationally. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
made it
yeah,
to MSI finals before, but it wasn't Doublelift like being himself, like his domestic self. It was him playing solid during that MSI finals run, but he was not the superstar. Jan is him. He is the MVP of the team internationally right now, and that's on a
yeah.
roster with impact on it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty nuts. It's also on a roster with like core digit. It's like the three Korean veterans on this roster were outshone by the rookies. I think that we can really say we can move on a bit to the other rookie APA, in that he did not have a great like tournament. I think in over average, but this series he had a great series against Humanoid. Um, Man, the trash talk was coming in hot. Yappa on full blast. I gotta say, I mean, he had a really good series, man. His Talia was really insane. I think something that happens with APA is that like you give him Talia and he is like looks like Faker. He just hits random W's on you. It's like I think that's where you have to like show that you're a really good Talia. It's like yeah, you have good roam timings and like you have good farm and stuff like that. But the really good Talias, they just W you with no help at all. They just find random angles to flick you in and start a fight. Like it's an engage ability for some players. So that I think was really impressive. And then finally, the Aurelion Soul, I mean, is just an OP champion. He piloted it great. Solo kills on Humanoid. Same with the Tristana, right? His Tristana was a big carry in Game 4. So like props to the NA talent rookies. I think that they were the star performers in this series against Fnatic. So any thoughts on APA?
Yeah, APA, his play-ins was not like super good. He had some okay games, right? But for the most part, he was
he
just.
didn't he didn't play in play-ins.
Wait, what?
APA did
Oh,
not
I'm
play in
thinking of
play-ins.
Jensen. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, you're right.
yeah.
I'm thinking of Jensen. I thought he was fine. Jensen was fine there, but either way, for Team Liquid coming back, I would say his early games. Well, I mean the three. Okay, yeah, they got 3-0'd, and Cream was not a very like a superstar this tournament, and
Hmm.
APA didn't do that much. I think APA has shown that his Talia is internationally ready, and I think more importantly, it's the first time since Poe Belcher. Maybe you could argue Palafox, but I think really it's the first time since Poe Belcher where you have a mid laner that's like actually a threat, like draws constant bans. Palafox, they did go to semi quarterfinals, right? which is a
Yep.
big deal. And they did beat G2, which is a huge deal. Still one of the biggest deals ever.
Yep.
But in this one, this is a best of 5, and our mid laner is not a passenger when they go internationally. Palafox was APA's father, like the whole last year.
Yeah.
And even then, when he goes internationally, he was like, he's fine, right? It's been a long time where I'm like, I see someone pick something in mid lane, I'm like, yeah, dude, this NA mid laner is about to take over the game.
Yeah.
He's still rough around the edges, makes some mistakes, but he's got like really strong picks, and he shows he can use them. At least his Talia is always available too, and that's
Yeah.
like one of the evergreen characters in pro play.
Yep, yeah, I definitely think his Talia's good. I mean, his Asol is relevant. His Tristana was pretty decent too. And
Good
yeah,
enough for Worlds.
he's a mid laner, he's an NA mid laner that would draw anywhere like at a minimum like 2 bans and sometimes 5 bans. Okay, people actually banned 5 mid lane champions against APA. I think that's really funny and kind of ridiculous when you have a team with like Impact and Core JJ that like this guy is getting 5 mid lane bans and he still pulls out like the Tristana, right? I think like he got like Asol, Talia, Ziggs, and like I can't remember. I think it was some other picks too, where and then he still was able to find an extra pick in there. So really funny stuff. Yeah, I mean, good for APA. Like, let's also like paint the story here. Okay, APA is literally a rookie. Okay, I was saying Yeon was kind of a rookie, but not literally because he's past his rookie year. It's his second year. APA is literally a rookie. He has not physically played a full year of pro play. He played half a split last year, and this is his first full split ever. So the fact that he's here doing this, right, is pretty impressive and I think kind of amazing for an NA pro to ever do this. And, um, both Eon and APA came up from the academy system. They're not imports. They're not like, you know, uh, Asian players that like imported over and then grew up in the academy system either. They like were born in America. They speak English or native languages in this region. Like I don't want to get too far and weird in this direction, but all I'm saying
I was
is
like, oh,
these.
let him cook.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like all I'm saying is they're American, okay? Like I think it's a bit different if like we have like Huhi, he his whole career was based in NA, but he's a Korean player, right? He was born in Korea, he came from Korea. Same with Jensen, right? He's a North American player, but he was born in Europe and he came from Europe, right? And we adopt these guys and like congratulate their success to make it to MSI finals, like those players did. But I mean, I think it's really different when you have APA and Neon who are American born and they go through the academy system, through the tier 2 system that got deleted by LCS. Like we have proof that it works. It's some of the best performances NA's ever had because we look at last year, NRG that beat G2, that whole roster, minus the bot lane, was from Academy, right? Dokla, Contracts, and Palafox were all Academy-born players as well, and they beat G2. So you really have to realize that the Academy players that have transferred to the LCS have had the most success for us recently, internationally. So we really need to start thinking if we should have gotten rid of our tier two like seeds, right? Of our tier two
I mean,
region
Liquid and
stuff.
FlyQuest were the only ones who didn't, and they were the ones who came. So
Yep,
who would have
exactly.
thought?
Who would have thought? So yeah, that's awesome stuff. Let's talk about the final series against T1. Did you happen to catch this one?
Yes, I just caught up with it. Right before this,
Okay,
I have so many thoughts, but I'll do my broad strokes as always. APA, I think APA actually played fairly well. I think there was like a lot of times he was getting uber focused, and that happened. That like put too much pressure on him, and he didn't necessarily handle that well. Jan, I think, was a superstar through the series. I also am going to say it now. I think Jan Core JJ was better than Gu Macaria across the series. At least Jan is. Okay, I guess Core JJ wasn't necessarily, but Jan was playing like a man possessed. I think this was the greatest single performance of an NA ADC against T1 ever. If you don't
oh,
know the record, it's like 2-16 or something like crazy for maybe it's like 2-20, like T1 versus NA. And yes, Liquid only won 3 this series, but I think they had a legitimate chance. I think their macro on average was better throughout this series. I think that if Liquid was just a little bit more disciplined in games 1 or 2, either of those were winnable, especially game 2.
yeah.
And I think that they showed a market improvement from the last Worlds two matches they played against each other. So I'm really proud of Liquid. This is the first time in a long time where I watched an NA team go against T1, who's like the NA stompers, and like I was like, wow, we made them sweat. Now I'll say my last part, which is T1 was also playing really reserved. They were like, we do not want to screw up. We don't want to take risks. We like don't want to tilt. And so it felt like they were holding back a lot, which is what Liquid was like able to get their edges. But I mean, you have to be like enough of a threat to do that.
Yeah, I do think that I mean we'll see how the rest of the tournament goes. I think talking about T1 and their form is a conversation in itself. So we'll focus on Team Liquid for now. Yeah, Yeon, did not disappoint. He was him. Like he was the guy that was like, if you mess up even a little bit, he was just gonna 1v9 carry. That Samira game was some of the coolest stuff like all tournament. Honestly, the Samira game was so sick. I wish they pulled it off. I wish they won it. But they did still give us a win in game three. I'm happy about that. But like, I was watching Cagel's live stream. I stayed up all night to watch it. I ruined my sleep schedule. I didn't care. And everybody was losing their minds over his Samira. Like, he was going ham. His Samira kicks were like really fast, really clean. I was like, is this ARAM? Like, oh my god, he's about to get a penta. Like, it was it was so crazy good. The comp was a nice setup for him too. And like I think he had a great series. I think Yeon proved that he did it against the Fnatic series. Well done. We beat EU. Whatever. We can do that any other day. But to go and do that against T1 and to smurf on Samira like that felt good. That felt really fun to watch. Now let's talk about some of the other players in this series. I think we gotta mention some of the not so bright spots. Yeah, Umti, unfortunately, gotta call him out. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, he was on Bro. He has been manhandled by T1 for almost a decade. Okay. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, he has a bit of like Vietnam War flashbacks. I think it got really rough for him. He did not play well in this series. He had a really bad series, and that's okay. I this is his first international tournament ever. His first split in NA. His first time winning anything. Right. So did he suffer from nerves? I think so. I don't think this was a demonstration of his best skill. I think he really suffered from some nerves and jitters. I mean, it's T1, right? It's like you get away from the monster in the closet because you move to a different house, and then you go on vacation and someone brings that monster in the closet, right? And they put it in your, like, it's like T1 came back and haunted him, right? He got away from T1 to win a championship only to run back into him, right? They're inevitable. And um yeah. So any thoughts on Umti or any of the other players on Team Liquid?
Yeah, I think that Umpty has been the reason why Liquid has been stable enough to get this far. I think he's probably got a lot to do with why their macro is so good. Like you can coach it, but you need someone to drive it in game, right? I think unfortunately against the like best teams in the world, like T1's at least top four, top five, right? Minimum.
Yeah.
Even if they're bad at this tournament, relatively speaking,
Yeah.
he's just not enough, right? He's misses smites enough, often enough in like key moments where it's like it's a smite contest, and I never think like Pioshik. I'm like, oh, he stole it. Okay, cool. Or owner. Oh, definitely owner will steal it, right? Or cannon. But then I look at Umpty, I'm like, I feel very nervous when it comes down to smites. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of little things where I think he maybe just feels the pressure. He's literally never been at an international tournament before. I
Yeah.
think with all that considered, like while he's obviously not a rookie, he's like a super veteran in some ways. I can give him some slack. Like you literally are playing against the guys who like whipped you for years.
Yeah.
So I think he was underwhelming. If he played 20% better, I think we win at least one more match. I don't think I won't go so as far as to say we win the series because there's more pressure as you get closer to doing the big thing.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably doing a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think that there was a lot of coping that said that there was a world where TL could actually win the series because of how weak T1 was. And as a common NA coper, I was reading some Twitter posts, I was like watching co-streams and stuff like that. I don't think so. Like once you saw game 4, like you really saw that T1 can still turn it on. They're playing badly. They're not really at peak form, but they can still turn it on like to a different degree. And we saw that in game 4. It was just a complete mega stomp. I actually turned it off part way. I didn't want to watch it anymore. It was just a complete mega stomp. And then I think another problem is like, they kept putting on like mild carry champions, right? Like they put on Lee Sin, they put on Xin Zhao, and they put on Lilia, and those are all the series they lost. And like I do think Umti's always been better on Sejuani or Maokai or something like that. Like just maybe even Vi is fine. It's like semi carry. Xin Zhao is like okay sometimes too, but like he really needs to be on a facilitator, not about damage, but about soaking damage, about being tanky and like playing for the team, right? Really, really selfishy. So, some things to think about for Team Liquid in the draft. I also think for stuff in the draft is that unfortunately, I think this is kind of trending throughout the tournament. This started from the very beginning of the tournament and has been talked about all like for a while. Is like we'll talk about T1 and their Senna priority. I think Senna is definitely become a bait pick this series. Tons and tons of bans when it actually goes through. Doesn't win very much. Kalista is that other semi bait pick in that I just felt like Team Liquid they could not win with Callista, and it's not a Yeon problem. I have no problem with Yeon's like mechanics on the champion. I just think it's a team play problem where even some of the best teams were struggling to make Callista work because of her inherent strengths and weaknesses. Her inherent strengths are so situational. You have to play really coordinated and really well with your support and just your team to just dive and make tons of explosive plays and to really like have high impact with the with the Callista ulti, right? Like I think it's almost better to have Callista support and use it like a ranged Tom Kench, like T1 was doing a bunch of times. So interesting things to think about the draft. And the last thing I'll have to call out in the draft is it's just top lane, right? I think that Zeus can get away with playing Vayne top over and over again into Cassante because there's just a big skill gap, not necessarily just between Zeus and Impact, but between like how other Asian teams are gonna punish a Vayne top. Like there's a lot of ways to punish Vayne top even now, even though she's good and has great matchups. With like how you roam with your jungle and support, how you lane swap, how you play the mid games and you focus the Vayne in the team fight very early on, right? Like you have to do this with these ranged top laners like TF and Vayne. So Team Liquid definitely you could see the things that they were missing that they didn't get because like we don't have Vayne top in NA. We never played that stuff in NA. We didn't. We barely played TF top in NA, and that was all over Korea, all over Europe and China, right? So that's just something that we missed out by being from North America. We didn't get any practice against the range top lane meta that lots of other teams did. So oh, last thing I forgot to mention. We got to talk about it. I know it's Team Liquid. We've been talking about it for 20 minutes, but CoreJJ, unfortunately, we are seeing the reverse trend where it seems like now all of a sudden he's better on enchanters than engaged champions. Like it took like 3 years, but it's like wrapped all the way back around. I don't know. Do you have any opinions on CoreJJ and his performance in the series?
I think that if you can't play Alistar, that's one thing, right? Like that's a more highly mechanical champion. I get that you fall off on that. If you can't play Nautilus, I'm very concerned. I think that during the playoff run he was making some big plays, but he might have been just hard trained for too long to try to look for like too many low percentage plays for his team because he had to for a long time. So he like I don't know if he knows how to just take normal plays, and he's not consistent enough for his normal plays, even if he is trying to take them. So, I mean, not a lot of excuses, right? This guy is a world
Yeah.
champion. He has a lot of experience. He has been a superstar before. This is very bad, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I think that it's just it's a weird thing to say about someone like Core JJ. I think he got nerves. I think he got like I don't know. The sun started shining in his eyes because it's not like he was like oh he's not looking for plays or he's playing shy. It's like he's just missing really weird hooks. Like there was a time where He just hooked backwards. There was nothing in front of him to hook. Like it was a game two. He was face checking into T1, like trying to get vision onto Baron, and he just hooked backwards into the air. There was no wall anywhere close there. Wasn't a champion, and I have to say that's nerves. Unfortunately, that's not like bad play. That's just like baffling play. That's like, oh, you completely pooped your pants. There's
Hmm.
also, I think, this one you can maybe say is like just slight mechanics or like slight nerves or something. I'm not really sure, but it was at a very pivotal moment in game two where, man, Yeon was on the point of pentakilling. He was just right there to popping off. Um, J actually had a really good look. He ulted, I think he ulted Gumayushi. He ulted someone very, yeah, I think he ulted Gumayushi or Keria or something with the Nautilus ulti. And then as he got popped up, J actually missed the hook on the knocked up target. It was a free hook. It's like a stun target.
I remember. Yep.
So that was a pretty unfortunate moment for him. So I think like man, all these things we talked about are so fixable, right? A little bit of draft change here and there, a little bit of better focus and mechanics from Umti and Core JJ. And we definitely take this series to game five for sure. Game two should have been ours. And, you know, there's a world where we even win game one. We demoralize T1 something. I don't know because game one was really
They
close too.
panic. Yeah. If it's
Yeah.
2-0, they will panic. Like they're human. They're very. They're an emotional team still.
Yeah, they are 100% an emotional team. They're not playing super coordinated. They're super inconsistent. Like, I think that the reason why Game 4 came out with a stop is because T1 got confidence to win two close games against us. Okay, they lost Game 3. Game 4, serious mode. But, like, imagine we just come in rolling, we give them zero momentum, we win three in a row. Like, there is a world where this is a 3-0, where Team Liquid, they play, like, 10 to 15% better, and T1 plays like 5 to 10% worse, right? It's like such tiny margins. Um, but yeah, any last thoughts on Team Liquid? They are eliminated. It was a great tournament for NA. Let's not talk about FlyQuest, but it was a great tournament for NA. What are your last thoughts on them?
As I said before, Liquid is the team that goes international and puts up a fight, and I'm really happy to see them back. And I think it's really poetic that their weakest looking team on paper is the one that like has improved tournament over tournament and could legitimately be a force next season, next split, or the meta completely changes and they get destroyed. I don't know. I will say the real last thing I'll say though is that I'm actually pleasantly surprised that they survived the lane swap meta because I
Yeah,
thought that while they do know the drills and everything, I didn't think they had the firepower to do lane swap meta in the right places. So in the sense of when they do lane swaps, I didn't think that their bottom lane combo with Umti would actually be able to punish world class like lane swaps. And, like actually got some ins right. They actually where they fell short was sometimes over pushing. NA has gotten Team Liquid specifically is good at this, but NA in general is pretty bad at the concept of taking a little bit and then consolidating that advantage. They chase too much. And
yeah.
Liquid managed to not do that until this series, I would say. They did it really well against Fnatic.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the lane swaps also helped a lot with just like making their draft a bit more diverse too. Like being able to pick Samira is only possible because they lane swapped, because you can't play the level one against Varus and Kalista. And if you know bot lane matchups and just the overall tempo, if you lose level one prio, like your game can be over just from the start. So lane swaps really saved a lot of these like funky picks, right? I also think lane swaps really saved the Cassante versus Vayne matchup because that level one is brutal for Cassante, but TL got a lot of advantages by lane swapping being viable, and that's another thing I want to talk about, right? Lane swaps were not happening in NA. Okay, this is so like critical to recognize as fans of LCS that we came into this tournament as bigger underdogs than you could ever imagine compared to other tournaments. We did not have range top laners. We did not have lane swaps. Those were like some of the two biggest things in this tournament that defined the meta. We just didn't get to play with them domestically, and every other major region did. So, congrats to us. We actually did something. We adapted quicker than I think is we had any right to. So, good stuff, Team Liquid. Congratulations. All right, let's move on though. Let's talk about some other of the teams. Um, I'm on a Western hype train, okay? And I know there's this NA versus EU thing, but now that TL is out and they never actually played against each other, I just want to talk about G2 and that it has been so fun to watch this team. I think it's really awesome that, we have two former NA players there. We have Broken Blade, who started his career, his main region career, in NA, winning a title here. And then we have Hansama, who took a little vacation over here and screwed over one of our best rosters on Team Liquid. But anyways, let's talk about
Make it go
G2.
away. I don't want to
Yeah.
remember that.
So they've had they've played three series now, and they won one, or they won two and only barely lost one. But talk about G2. Give me some of your overall thoughts. Any series you want to go through? Let's start with G2 versus T1 actually. So talk about that.
Yeah, I think we have to go through that.
Yeah.
G2 versus T1. G2 was looking really solid. Cav solo kill Faker at least twice throughout the series.
Yep.
Yike was a man possessed, and honestly, in this series, an objectively better jungler than Owner. And I think that's like a common theme with Owner. Like junglers that you wouldn't expect to be better than him have shown to be better than him. So like imagine this guy on a worse team without Faker piloting. I actually think Owner is like a very mechanical player, but I don't think he's like infallible. I think he has a lot of flaws when it comes to these tournaments, and that's why he consistently has like either amazing Smurf games or just like get smashed. For the rest of G2, we're gonna have to mention that Game 5 build from Jinx.
Oh God.
But I'll quickly say Yike had a crazy good series. His
Yep.
Rek'Sai was he was like a savant on Rek'Sai. Like honestly, I was like, oh my god, this guy's pathing circles around Owner. Like it was not just Owner playing badly. Yike was playing insane. I pray that I will outlive Game 5 or match point Belveth picks from the West because or actually in general JDG would do it too. They did it
Yeah,
last year,
twice.
Game 4.
They did
Twice.
it twice in a row. They did it
I just want
2022 and 2023. JDG Kanavi picks Belveth to lose 3-1 to T1 in the semifinals. This happened twice in a row. We live in a
I,
simulation.
I
Sorry, go on.
don't know what that character is doing. Like I love Belveth. I play it and everything, but like when I
I
watch
hate
it on
Belveth.
pro, like it keeps losing and it keeps doing nothing while losing. It's not like it lost, but it was carrying, right? It was like it does nothing. It falls behind. It goes 1-4 or 1-5, and then it just gets destroyed. It hits its E and then the opponent heals. It's like
Yeah.
I truly don't get what possesses them to be like, just pick me Belveth and let me lose in peace. But like they're winning. They're the better team. I think G2 is the better team this series, even though they lost. I think that what my theory is that T1 specifically Faker is not playing well enough. There's too many
Yeah.
bans in that area because of the lane swap shenanigans. Like it's harder to. He just has a lot more he has to control, both in terms of where he roams, in terms of non-standard positioning, and he's frankly, it looks like he's just distracted because he's just getting solo killed by everyone. Did
Yeah.
APA solo kill him once? I think he
No.
did.
I don't think he did. I don't think so.
Well,
I
Knight did. Anyways, but
I think I think last year Worlds he might have. I don't know. No, he
oh,
didn't
okay.
solo kill. I think last year Worlds he like was winning lane against Faker, but I don't think he ever solo killed him.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. This year I think Faker mostly had APA's number. But okay, let's back to G2 though. So we're gonna focus on the West. This is a Western based podcast, but I want to talk about T1 still a little bit too. I'm gonna give some copium for them because I am a big Faker. Who's not a big T1 Faker fan, right? But let's talk about G2 and that Caps is a god. Okay, he took a little
Mm.
vacation from being a god. All right, he was a god from like 2018 to 2020. He took a little break in 21 to 23 ish. Right, this year has been his year. He has some of the most insane mechanics that I have seen in this tournament. Period. Okay, we're gonna talk about his top esports series later on, but man, Caps was so good. Okay, his Tristana I think is the best in the tournament, maybe the best in the world. I've never seen anyone buffer things this consistently, so really, really hyped about that. And his Oriana is insane. Like I think his Oriana won 2 out of the 5 games against T1. Um, you already sang your praises about Yikes, so I'm gonna talk about Broken Blade. Oh my god, his Yasuo is so clean. Okay, his Yasuo is correct. I think game one when he did the EQ flash predict onto Zeus, no, Owner, it was Owner. I lost my shit. I was like, oh my god, that's TSM Broken Blade right there. That's ours. That's so awesome. So I was really excited about that, and yeah, I think this series he really showed that he can compete with the best top laners in the world, right? He outclassed Zeus and 369 on average, I think. And yeah, so that's the top side. Now we can head into the bot side. Before we start flaming Hans Sama a little bit, I do want to say that Mickey had his extreme ups and downs. Oh my god, like Mickey X was a mega intern game one. I think he was one of the main reasons why they lost game one against T1. His Rel was really useless, but then his Leona and his Poppy
It's
are,
Poppy.
oh my god, they're like actual godlike. They're some of the, it's like this is top tier level support play possible against, you know, T1, against top esports. His Poppy is insane. I think his Poppy was so good against T1 and PSG that it became a permaban against him in top esports, and he was just like, that's fine, I will just play Leona and bring back those, you know, those misfits, Hansama and Ignar vibes, playing Leona bot lane, solo killing Asian bot laners. So congrats to Poppy for, I think her like play rate like doubled after after
And
Mickey
pretty
X started
much he
playing it.
just popularized it. Like his play was so good that everyone was like, "Wait, this character just counters like 2/3 of the meta."
Yep, yep. And then it just became really popular with the Halo Blades, with his exact build of Swifties into Deadmans. All right, any positives you want to talk about G2 T1 before we flame on Sama?
Uh, I would say that before we flame Hansama, the positive is like the positions they got into and his relative consistency besides the atrocities committed in Game 5. I think I think the bot lane is actually quite good. I continue to like see like these matchups where I don't particularly feel like Guma Keria, maybe even more so Keria. Actually, Guma's been fine in this series, but I feel like Keria, like the characters we used to know him for, I feel like I watch him play engages and like he's all right. In a losing game, I don't feel like he has that spark of like superstar gameplay.
Yeah. I definitely, that's a good way to put it, where Carrier feels very mid. He's not bad. He's definitely not
No,
bad.
definitely
He
not.
Yeah, he was good. You can see streaks of him being good, but he's just kind of mid, right? It's just like, you know, I can't complain about you. I'm gonna still give you a passing grade, but you're not Carrier that won last year Worlds. You're not Carrier that went to Game 5 against DRX, right? That was smurfing. So yeah. All right. So let's talk about Hansama. I actually do think that he had a very disappointing series in that if he played like he played against top esports, G2 wins this series for sure. I think that if he built LDR, period, if he built LDR third item, we all know what we're talking about. It's game 5. He's on the Jinx. G2 had one of the most beautiful like lane swap fakes. Like they kept pretending to lane swap, but instead Mickey X and Hans Sommer are waiting in a bush to slam T1's bot lane into the wall and get a big lead. Like wow, like Poppy and Mickey, like they created gold out of thin air in the bot lane, and and what should be a really bad losing matchup, right? Like think about that. It's Varus Callista versus Poppy Jinx. That sounds miserable, and they didn't lane swap into it. They said, "No, we're gonna kill you." So really impressed by G2 and Mickey there, but they put all their eggs in this basket. They kept feeding kills and feeding lanes and waves to Jinx, and Hans Sama couldn't do anything with it. And one of the most important things about it is he did not build Lord Dominic's regard at any point in the game, and all he had to do was build it over Bloodthirster. Okay, I get that he likes Bloodthirster, he wants it, right? Especially like I don't know. I guess if you're gonna have a lot of uptime, but like it doesn't make sense in this game at all. Okay, I would have accepted it if T1 had a lot of poke, right? All they had was a
Mhm.
lethality Varus. Okay, that's really not enough poke to justify buying a full Bloodthirster. And that's it. They had a bunch of armor stacking on the Cassante, right? The base armor on all the champions is just good enough to justify it. Lee Sin was quite fed and built HP. and he just should have built LDR third item. That's it. Period. I think they win the game. I think they win that game and they win that series if they do that. So, yeah, that's it. Period. Nothing else to comment on Hansama, and that he didn't really play a good series. He was pretty invisible, and I think he made a game-losing purchase from Boris. Any other thoughts? Because we got a lot more to talk about.
I think the only other thought is I'm so glad that there's going to be a rematch.
Oh yes. Oh
Like,
yes.
actually, how often do we get a banger series into a rematch way down in the bracket? It's
Yeah.
so rare.
It's a feels good moment for this format and this tournament. I can't believe it took us like 14 years to get here, but finally we have good
Well,
international
we had it
tournament.
last year. It was good last year too.
Yeah, I know. Okay, it took us 13 years, right? It took us up
Yeah,
until last year to have good formats. Like it's crazy.
yeah.
Like it's
And it
finally
doesn't. It
this.
hasn't applied to Worlds yet. I like my mind is going to melt. I think this will be the best tournament of all time, above like IPL 5 even in terms
Yeah.
of we have cross regional competitiveness, so many different strategies, so many picks just like coming out of nowhere, and it's just anyone could win this tournament right now of the remaining teams.
Yep, I think so. 100%. I don't think there's any there's no dead teams. There's going to be no dead series. I think that also that we had something very unique in that lane swaps were potentially going to make this tournament really bad and really boring. But what instead happened is it made everything really chaotic and spicy because teams evolved to the point, mostly G2, where you can use lane swaps to pick something much different than what is possible because of how powerful ranged bot laners are, because of how powerful ADC supports are from the last 2 years. Now you can pick way different stuff. You can pick weird stuff, and now you can gamble. You can like mind game people. You can sit in bushes. You can fake lane swap. You
Yeah,
can
you can be Zeus and keep picking TF top and doing literally nothing with it, but
and yeah, you can keep being a
you can.
useless ranged top laner, but then you hit ghost and you zoom around and you yeah, freaking Zeus. Zeus. Okay, so
His
we
vein
talk.
is also. We'll get into it later.
You know what? You know what, man? Let's just okay. G2 versus PSG. I don't wanna knock PSG. Okay, they had a great series against BLG. Really awesome stuff. It made me feel good to watch PSG take BLG that far because then it shows that well, okay, it's really not that embarrassing for FlyQuest, right? Let's be honest.
Nope. Yep. Nope.
PSG
Not embarrassing.
hey, PSG and the players on PSG, they deserve notoriety. They deserve respect. Okay, they deserved to take BLG to 5 games, and Fleck was lost to it. No shame. Okay, fuck it. They did get 3-0'd by G2. I think that PSG played just substantially worse than what they showed against BLG. Like it wasn't even close. It felt like their overall team coordination and skill level like fell off a cliff after their BLG series, which was quite unfortunate to see. And G2 handily 3-0'd them. That's fine. Do you have anything you want to say about it, or are we good to move on?
Quickly, the game one PSG looked like the PSG from the previous series, and then they collapsed macro wise. Like G2 outplayed really hard, went from like a 4-0 lead to 5-4 or something like that,
Hmm.
and they never recovered. I think PSG has never won a best of five at MSI. They've
Hmm.
made it to the stage every time, or very often, as Flashballs and PSG, and they've never actually won an international best of five at MSI at least.
Hmm.
Actually, they've never won an international best of five
No,
at
they
the
have.
main stage
No,
of.
they have at Worlds. They've beaten plenty of um I think they've beaten NA before.
No, no, but not to qualify, not to get to quarterfinals. Like,
No, no, I think they have. I think Flash Wolves has beaten. I think they've made semis before. They made semis in 2015 again, and they lost to Origin. I think something like that. I
oh
think they
my
have.
gosh, okay, you maybe if it's the
May.
2015 or no, Origin didn't make finals though, so there's no.
Oh no, okay. I think yeah. Flash Wolves lost to Origin in 2015
No, the Flash
quarterfinal.
Balls legitimately always lose their best of fives in main stage.
Okay, maybe
Always.
maybe
I
you're right.
might be
Yeah.
wrong, but I think it was like a rule. So good for them. If they haven't, I might be wrong. Because the problem is play-ins has become competitive too, where there's like a lot of big teams there. But either way, I'm very happy for them. I think that they showed a lot against BLG. The BLG series, honestly, I think PSG is very similar to Team Liquid. they have their fundamentals. They have some strengths. And if you underestimate them, they will take you around. But then, just like BLG in Game 5 and T1 against Team Liquid in Game 4, it's like, holy crap. When those
Yeah.
teams like actually are like, okay, we ain't losing this though. And
Yeah,
then they
they
like
they
really
get
push
angry.
it.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. So I respect the PSG. They lost so much for so long. The reunified region thing, I think, will show us a lot of good things when it comes to this year's Worlds, where they'll have more than one seed.
Yes, I hope so. PSG is definitely a team, and their region is definitely worth respecting. You know,
Yeah, do we call them a wild card after they beat FlyQuest like that? I don't know. We'll think about it.
I don't know about wildcard. They are a minor region. I think just due to size, like we just have to call them a minor region. But it's not to say that they're worth less, right? I think that they're on equal playing foot as main regions, right? Like this PSG team was probably on par with. They could probably do pretty well against Fnatic, and they might even do well against Team Liquid, right? Like let's be real.
Yeah, it's possible. That's true.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So, all right, but that's G2. Okay, let's go on to G2 versus Top Esports. I think a lot of people were really hyped about this series. I was too. It was a really fun
Absolutely.
one. Top Esports got like giga mega turbo blasted. It was like one of the most one-sided series we've seen actually at this tournament, which is really weird to say for a Western team to do to an Asian team, but it's just true, right? Like G2 got revenge on TN. Like they have been holding a grudge for 5 years, which I'm pretty sure Caps and Mickey have.
They probably have. He
Yeah.
made fools of them at the Worlds that they should have won Worlds in. They could
Yeah.
have won Worlds in.
Yeah. Like G2 got denied Worlds by FPX in 2019, almost like majorly by TN. Like TN was probably the main factor that caused them to lose Worlds, and here they are eliminating them at MSI. Wow, what a series! What a statement from G2. I What a statement from Hansama. Okay, we flamed you. You got flamed by the entire world. You got told to get kicked off, and he said no. He said, "I'm gonna smurf on Jackie Love and Mako." So hey, congrats to
That's
Hansama. Okay,
crazy.
I think it's so crazy to have such a quick turnaround. The turnaround was within like a few days, like 3 days or something, maybe
Nah,
4.
it's not crazy, man. Fucking building LDR third is not crazy. It's just this is just what reality looks like when you stop drafting in Candyland with your. Oh, I'm so mad about those builds. But yes, he turned it around. Kudos to him. Jackie Love and Mako were probably one of the best spot lanes, like one of the scarce spot lanes of the tournament, and they were completely outclassed in this whole
Dude,
series.
completely.
Like he
Like
picked Draven. He picked Draven right after Jackie Love, the OG Draven main. Picked Draven.
yeah.
I lost my shit. I was like, you
Dude,
can't be serious.
you can't write a better script than that, okay? Like Hans Sama, who gets flamed all tournament, Jackie Love, who's getting praised as a god of ADC, held back by his team. He picks Draven, yeah, like loses to G2 pretty handily in game 2. Hans Sama says, "Let me show you how it's done. EU Draven is better than Chinese Draven." Yeah, just legendary stuff. I mean, like Jackie Love, his Draven is like an MSI like legacy, right? He has one of the fastest games ever in international history on Draven, smacking T1. So this was really cool
It's the
stuff.
fastest ever. It's by far. It's like a
Yeah, the
15
fastest.
something minute game. It's the faster
Yeah.
than the Mad Lions meme game.
Yep. That was Jackie Love on IG, and I mean this is the first time EU has ever beaten a Chinese team in a best of 5, ever, right? Like that's a crazy record. That's just a crazy thing to witness, and
Wait,
yeah.
holy
So
shit, you're right. What? I was like thinking about because Mascot 5 beat TPA or no, that was CLGEU. Never mind, or not TPA. They beat okay, but that was CLGEU. Okay, never. Wait, that's still a European team, but that was a best of 3. Holy fuck, we have best of 3s at Worlds before. I can't believe
yeah,
it.
we sure did. Yeah. Well, you know, like this is just the new world we live in, okay? The new pecking order, okay? NA greater than
Wait,
EU,
we have to
EU
add
greater than
more to
China.
this too.
Yeah.
This is coming off Top Esports almost upsetting Gen G right beforehand. It's
Yeah.
not like Top Esports were like clowns or anything. this whole series, like I was so impressed. Yike came out with a 48 KD. Caps's Tristana looks like, as you mentioned, the best Tristana, but this is where he
Oh my
cemented
god.
it. Like even when the other players may have like had a little hiccup early in, like I'm like, oh no, Caps is going to carry this. This is what it looks like. He was so consistent. And then BB picking game one Camille was very surprising to me. That comp was so jank. Like I
Dude,
don't
I
particularly
love it.
think that Camille, Ivern, Leona, Callista, Tristana is a comp in a real world, but the way they played it absolutely like murdered the other team, and then I think the momentum just carried as well.
Yeah, momentum was a huge factor of the series. I do think that Top Esports started to collapse, like just very quickly. They didn't. I think that Top Esports they did not know how to deal with that game one draft, right? Like you're saying, it's such a weird draft. I just don't think they knew what to do, and then them getting giga stomped that hard definitely like blew their confidence and the momentum because as the
Yeah,
series went on, like it was just more and more just like yeah, very clearly G2 was just outclassing them. And we got to talk about Caps. Man, that game one Tristana play was one of the best plays at MSI, I think. So Caps is sitting at 1 HP, had a really like heavy trade against Azir. He gets hit by Xin Zhao W, like just barely. Tien on Xin Zhao, he ease onto Caps. Caps flashes over the wall, and then it forces Tien to flash over to him, and he has the quickest, fastest little ulti to knock Xin Zhao away. And Caps lives with 1 HP, and he's staying there for no reason. It was so hype. It was such a great play, and I think this is right after he had the perfect Tristana W buffer over a Azir wall, right? This is when I've talked about before in many years past, where if you get good enough Tristana, you have so many favorable like interactions between small moments of crowd control that like if AI were to play Tristana, like they would be unkillable. You can't CC Tristana. If you know when to time it, you win every single CC interaction. There's almost nothing you don't win. You can W out of Bard ulti. You can W out of Vi ulti on Tristana. Like there's so many crazy things you can do if you time it right. You just have to time it
as
right.
long as it's not like Poppy or a suppress. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And even then, like if you get suppressed, you can still make it so you're suppressed at the end of your jump. So if you get Malzahar ultied and you W at the right
Oh,
time,
I didn't
you'll
know that.
get you'll get suppressed at the end of your jump. So you'll still make distance. It's pretty OP. And
Mm.
then I gotta talk about the Ivern 25 stacks Medjais. Literally, this is what we talk about. Like when I don't think Top Esports knew what to do. They had so little experience. They were getting 2v4'd by Ivern Leona. Double supports. Okay? And that's because these champions are broken ass stat sticks. Okay? One of the things about Leona that has been a thing for like the last 10, 15 years is that Leona is always a really scary champion to balance because if she gets fed, if she gets too tanky, she is like incredibly OP because she does way too much damage. She's way too tanky, just like stats wise, and she has a ton of sticking power because of how much CC. Like Leona is one of the most broken champions in the support role if you give her gold. And yeah, I mean that was the most hilarious thing watching Ivor and Leona 2v4 top esports. I mean that Daisy did work, right? Like that was crazy.
It's a 3v4. Come on now.
Okay, it was a 3v4 to the end, but I would wager that they would win the 2v4 if Broken Blade never TP'd in.
No,
I
no,
just
no.
think.
I'm saying Daisy counts.
Oh, I see, yeah, Davey. Okay, I got you now.
She
Yeah,
was
I have to
stronger than
agree.
some of the top esports members on average. It was not.
Oh,
It was disgusting.
yeah, Daisy was probably more useful than Tien was that whole series. Yeah, like actually.
Oh my god, I can't.
Uh,
I'm glad I'm like caught onto Tien's friggin' con. Like he's so good sometimes, and then he's so giga terrible sometimes.
dude, he was so good against Genji. Let's be real.
He
Okay,
was so good.
he was really good against Genji. I was like, oh
I
shit,
think
Tien's
he was better
alive.
than Canyon the whole series. Well, no,
Yeah.
at least in the last three games he was better.
Yeah, Canyon had an
Ugh.
insanely good game five, but yeah. And then
No,
I
sorry,
mean
last two. Yeah.
it's just like it's just Canyon and Faker I think have had pretty bad tournaments, but they just have those times where like Faker was running it down against G2, and then his game five Ari was incredibly clutch just to save the series, right? I think these players are just not playing very well, but you can see the shines of like, oh yeah,
that's the GOAT status. This is the MVP status where, yeah, they'll just clutch it out. And I think Canyon was the same against his series against Top Esports where he was playing like shit all series. Game 5 had the most insane cracked Italy. Like this tournament is so long, we can't talk about all the great moments. Like there's been so much good stuff.
Yeah,
So
we'll
let's
probably
wrap.
have to do like a highlight recap at after the finals as well. But there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up. G2 3-0 Top Esports eliminated them. Top Esports, they lost their minds picking Udi or Rek'Sai. I think they had no idea what the fuck they were doing. Broken Blade,
No, they
yeah, Broken
had
Blade
no idea.
ulted 369 in the same spot, and then Uzi was doing a co-stream, and he called it the 69 spot. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Uzi.
Yeah,
Still the
yikes.
goat.
Yeah,
Amazing
yes.
carry. What the hell?
Is the meme god too.
So
The co-stream
wild.
god. Yeah, he did. He coined it. All right, so let's move on. Let's just talk about let's just talk about T1. Okay, let's just we're almost an hour in. I know you got to go soon. So let's just talk about T1. They started off their tournament with G2. We talked a lot about it already. And I got to say I do think that T1 against G2, man, they were playing very poorly. They were this close to losing. Faker was getting solo killed by Caps. I think Faker played poorly in 4 out of the 5 games. No. 3 out of the 5 games against G2. I think he had a good game 1 on Azir and he had a good game 5 on Ari. But other than that,
Mhm.
Faker
Oh yeah.
was a bit of a liability against G2. What do you want to talk about with T1? We can start from beginning to end. Yeah, over the tournament.
So I thought that they were gonna win this tournament. I'm regretting this a lot. I just like I'm watching them throughout the tournament. I think the most descriptive word for their whole tournament so far is uninspiring. Um, I feel that they, and this is a community sentiment less so than me making this up out of scratch. I think they have not benefited from lane swaps. I actually think they're too dumb for lane swaps. I think the problem with lane swaps is that Faker cannot tell you everything you need to do. I think that's actually it. These kids. So I used to think I was like T1 was there when lane swaps were invented. You know, they were one of the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
But that's Faker. That's just Faker, actually. And he probably is getting solo commit because he's actually micromanaging these numbnuts in the side lane and being like, hey, okay, you need to dive, you need to control the wave. You know how he does this tabbing?
Yeah.
So a lot of pro StarCraft players do this. So there's like a habit for Korean pros, high-level Korean pros, to raise your APM and stay on your toes. But for Faker, he's just stressing out because he's actually watching atrocities against lane swaps being committed. Now, okay, this is just narrative. I actually think, in general, their lane swaps weren't giga terrible in terms of the execution, but we don't know how much of a burden that is on Faker. So that's my theory. I actually think lane swaps has not benefited them very much. And it keeps baiting Zeus into picking these top winners where, like, yes, his Vayne went 5-0 and 4, and he won 2 of 3 games with it. But was it like, oh, this is the next series, by the way, not the G2 series. But he keeps picking things where I'm like, I don't think you're actually that good on TF. I don't think you're that good on Vayne, Zeus. I think you're just a worse bid if you're picking those characters.
I disagree. I do think he's actually really, really insane on Vayne, and I don't know about his TF. I think his TF is pretty mid, but I do think he's really good on Vayne. I just don't think he is good at the lane swap in the early laning phase on Vayne. I think his mechanics in team fights are mega cracked. I think his mechanics are really good, but I 110% agree that I think it's mostly Owner and Zeus. I don't think they know what they're doing macro wise. I think they're really lost most of the time. They're really confused. This meta is just like they just don't know what to do. They're just like they're caught. They're sunlocked, bro. Like I think they're
It's
really
just so
lost.
funny to think about, though. They're like so good. Like for so long I've like thought of them as like really good. And last year it got worse because of the kids on Intel World. When Faker benched himself because of the injuries, I was like, wait, these guys are frauds. These guys are idiots. Not idiots,
Yeah.
but they're just hands. They're the definition of just hands.
Yep. All hands, no brain. I have to agree. I am gonna also call this. Here's some copium for T1. Okay, so I know we got a lot of T1 listeners. It sounds like we're just making fun of T1 and harping them. Okay, here's the copium, and here's where I'm not going to really fault T1. And I talked about this in a previous podcast before. Is that they did not get to play a normal split, right? If we remember back to the regular season, Korea had faced like a few weeks or so of just inconsistent ping and inconsistent like I don't
Practice
know,
in
just
general.
practice. Yeah, like
If you're getting DDoS, it's not just a ping issue. It's like I can't play the game.
yeah, so all of LCK were getting DDoS for like I think a week or two, so they couldn't play main stage games. That's pretty rough. I think most of LCK was able to recover. Okay, fine. That sucks, but recoverable. But T1 was single targeted in that they couldn't scrim, they couldn't stream, they couldn't play solo queue, and their stage games were disrupted. And this went on for multiple weeks. This was not like an isolated event. Okay, they missed several crucial weeks of playtime, and to also you have to think about what that does to like a team and players' mental. They were really depressed. Faker and Keria and many other players were releasing statements about how sad it was that they couldn't play the game how they wanted. They couldn't practice. Period. So coming into this tournament, I also think that Faker released a statement saying that he was still recovering with wrist issues. He still had a physical handicap from last year that was kind of carrying over. So with both of these copiums, I actually do not fault T1 for looking like this. I just don't think it's their fault. I don't think they had a choice. Like you really cannot say that missing maybe potentially 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, I don't know, of practice throughout the tournament, throughout the year, when LCK is learning range tops, they're learning the meta, they're learning lane swaps. Like T1 misses out on 3 to 5 ish weeks of that. That's not fair. So yeah, that's it. I don't think this is their fault. I fully copium from that angle. So what do you think about that take?
That's actually a really good point. Like I feel like I had some cognitive dissonance between LCK finals and MSI, where I was like, they probably caught up. But because of the meta, because of everything, them being a whole, let's just say a month, right, behind on practice is actually a huge deal. And that's probably why Liquid had a good match against them too, because like they're literally unsure. T1 hasn't played that many games. Their practice was dog on the way here. Sorry, that wasn't dog. They would just weren't playing against the highest competition. Like T1 did have to go through play-ins. T1 did, not TL. But what did they play against like ES Estral or whatever they're called? And
Yeah.
FlyQuest at 17 minutes. Like as we
Yeah.
joked about in between, like they didn't get practice, guys. They didn't get challenged at all. So yeah, it is a perfect storm that like they aren't there, but it also means that they're in the top 4 with this little practice and this much shakiness. If they get their shit together, which is going to be hard because it's such a tight schedule, but if they do get their shit together, they might be really scary. Still,
Yeah,
because
I think
as you said,
yeah.
they can play the characters, but they don't know how to play the meta
Yeah,
strategy.
I don't think they know how to play the map at all. I don't think they know how to play lane swaps very well. Yeah, they don't know the macro. They don't. They also like when they're spending all this time catching up to baseline. Everybody's figuring out like the next level variations, like how to manipulate the meta to be different, how to throw little curveballs here and there, like G2 is doing, right? Like BLG is doing. So yeah, I think that there's the copium for T1. Let's go back into a bit of the series. I do think that this is another funny thing that we can talk about. That's just an overall community sentiment. Is people are calling Zeus like Zeshi or the Zeus, or they're comparing him to the Shy in his later
Yeah, I
stages
just
of his
realized.
career because he wins worlds and he immediately starts running it down and being one of like the goofiest players ever. I have really appreciated watching Zeus play because the man is a freaking inter, okay? The man is a god in mechanics and really good at team fighting on Vayne for some reason, but I cannot. I don't think he's thinking. I don't think he has a brain. He gets caught out doing the most stupid shit I have seen in ages. One of the funniest plays, I think this happened earlier in the tournament. I don't actually remember when, but it was almost like verbatim a classic the Shy play. Okay, so I'm gonna break down the Shy play for you. Okay, this happened last year. The Shy is playing Malphite on Weibo Gaming. Okay, he's like in JDG's face. JDG Kanavi. He Maokai W's Malphite. Malphite. He ulties the Maokai into his team. It's like an insect, right? He takes the Maokai who W's onto him into his team to bait Kanavi to die, right? So that's hilarious, okay? Like congrats to Shy, that's one of the funniest plays ever. And then to top it off, okay, as Weibo Gaming is collapsing onto the enemy, the Shy like TPs like half an inch over a wall so he can flank the enemy bot lane. And he doesn't really do much. Like he just like throws a Q because he's Malphite with no ulti, right? So it's one of the funniest plays. Pretty much, Zeus has a play almost exactly like that in this tournament, where I think he's playing Ornn or Cassante or something, and he gets jumped on. He doesn't really do anything. He just kind of gets jumped on, misses everything, gets really low to 1 health, and then he like TPs like from like the bot lane like center to just like slightly to the left to try and flank him, and like he doesn't do it. Like he just TPs an inch, and it was just one of the funniest plays. It's like okay, Zeus has fully transformed into the Shy, and I mean he just is goofy. Like he's playing range tops just like the Shy did, like right after he won Worlds. Like it's just so funny. So yeah, let's continue to talk about T1. Anything you want to bring up? We
I
can
think
move
it's a
on from
great comparison. We also had
Yeah.
a superstar mid laner for both of them, and an
Yeah.
inconsistent jungler. Wait a minute. Wait a
Is it,
minute. And a superstar bot laner who is a young prodigy.
yep.
Although the comparison breaks down at carry versus bot lane, like it's not the same. But everything else, I'm like, wait a minute. We'll
Yeah.
continue to talk about T1. I like the theories we're talking about. I agree. I mean, I also said the Zeus thing. I think Faker's been underplaying. We already talked about Kara and other places. I think Guma has been okay. I think it's hard when your support's been playing mediocre, and I think that the team, more importantly, I don't think the team's playing around him very much. As you mentioned earlier, there's a Senna addiction for him, which is very strange to me. Like he has spent so many games on Senna, and then it doesn't feel like they have a 66.6% win rate, but when it's T1, that's actually underperforming. Like why are we putting him on Senna? If he is performing and in the lane swap meta your other players aren't doing that well, give Guma something to play with. Like what are
Yeah.
we doing?
I think that it's one of the things that Kuma is struggling with is okay, bad meta read on the Senna, right? Very supportive champion. Like Senna was considered OP, I think, for most of their playoffs and leading up. And Senna was, I think, probably like one of those handshake considered OP in like scrims and stuff and leading up where people were just permabanning it over and over. But then
Mm-hmm.
once you get to like mid to late stages of tournaments and you're in best of fives, good teams are going to experiment and just not ban Senna and see what you do. And lo and behold, they give Senna, and it looks super useless. Like Senna TK, Senna Ornn, it feels really just not impactful. It doesn't do anything. Doesn't really do damage. Doesn't bully lane. If you want to dodge like awkward matchups, and you can really neuter how many souls Senna gets by lane swapping, right? Because you can't harass people as much, and also you're just in doing awkward shit, right? The support can't just sit in lane. Like, you're having an Ornn or a Tahm Kench farm solo as a Senna's running around at level 4 when everybody's level 7 or
Wait,
something, right?
that's a good point. Why is Senna being focused so much by T1 when they don't know how to abuse it for soul farming?
Yeah, they don't. Because lane swaps are, I think, on average, sometimes it works in better for lane swaps for Senna because you can bully somebody in a 1v2 scenario, right? So I think there's a
Sure,
lot of
and
lane
just farm
swaps.
them ad nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's tons of scenarios where you're in 2v0 situations or 3v0 situations or Senna is actually in the river by herself doing nothing. So yeah, I think it's a bad meta for Senna. Actually, I think the lane swaps hurt her because I still think the champion is really strong and the strategy of Senna and a tank bot lane that farms is really strong, but it's just not strong in lane swap stuff. And it's not strong. And I don't think it's strong with ranged top laners too. I think your comp is too fragile when you have a ranged top laner. So that's the thing with Senna, and I think that's a problem with Zeus is that he is just not the same player. Like I just don't think his Cassante and his Zac are just not very good. I think that's weird that his Cassante is not very good, but right, there's no Aatrox in this meta. There's no Renekton. Like there's a lot of champions that Zeus is like known for being good at. Like there's no Yone or there's no Gwen that they're being played, which I think they should just try and play it. Just play what Zeus is good at because the only thing he's looked good on is Vayne top, which is just so random. So that's another thing for T1. Yeah, let's talk a bit about the BLG series. Man, like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh, I'm excited for this one.
dude, like Elk took a little bit to ramp up, And then Elk was just all of T1's father. Like, holy cow, that Lucian was like, never give this man Lucian ever in your life. He is the cleanest Lucian I've ever seen. Like, it is like, honestly, this tournament,
Yeah, it's
it felt
between
like.
him and Yan, you know.
Yeah, I was about to say, is it that true? Okay, Jackie Love has a pretty good Lucian too, especially
Jackie Love
against.
was really good. I agree.
Jackie Love was really good, but like it felt like it's like why aren't T1 giving Gumayushi Lucian? I know he has a cracked Lucian too.
He
Like
does.
why are they not? Why they keep sticking him on Poke Varus and keep sticking him on Senna and sometimes, but they don't even give him Callista, right? Like sometimes they do, but like what if you give Gumayushi Lucian, right? Give him Jinx, like give him something to do damage and carry. So yeah, I mean BLG though, like I feel like they had a really bad series against PSG. And then against T1, it took a little bit of time to ramp up. It was close. It was a little messy. And then game 3 and 4 hit for BLG, and I was like, oh shit, they're scary. Oh my god, they're good. Yeah, talk about that BLG T1 series, or talk about anything you wanna bring up with BLG and
Uh, I think that Knight also played a really good series besides the Corki. The only loss they had was because they played LPL Corki. And like we've heard this, if you haven't heard the memes yet, let me just put it here as someone who has to witness LPL. I don't know why, but the Chinese players are just giga trash at Corki, specifically on package. Their missile accuracy is fine, the landing's okay, but I would say package and then also yeah, okay, their missile accuracy is not fine in this series, in that game. But when I watched it up, it was okay. It's like as expected. It was mostly like they just don't know what to do. They pick up the package and they're like, "Oh boy, I'm about to face plant," and dude, Knight face planted so hard. And I think it was so comical because game 1 he was on Talia, he solo killed Faker. He also got a lot of assisted kills. Like he was just playing so well. And I was like, dude, Faker's Corki is legendary. Like he's so good at Corki. What is going on? And then they switched sides on the matchup, and then I had an existential crisis where I was like, wait, is it just the champions? Like what's going on? Yeah, so Knight, terrible second game, but I think overall he continues to show that anyone who says Knight's a choker still, when last year he won every series except one in semifinals of World for a whole year, and then he comes to this tournament and plays like this, what do you want from these people? Do you want the people to never lose to not call him a choker? I will say that as I flamed Chovy for a long time, but I haven't this tournament. He has been sublime in most of his games. And then other than that, I don't think Shun has really caught my attention except in game 5 or 4, where oh my god, okay, he wasn't the first to pull it out. Him and Canyon are both known for Nidalee, but he played a masterclass throughout the game. The pressure, but even when he misses spears, he's forcing flashes. So it's not really a miss spear. He's forcing flashes. He's all around farming circles around owner. I saw Nidalee locked out. Shit, we're going to game 5. No, and then he showed it. So all across, BLG had a lot of depth. I honestly think the quietest person for me was either On or Bin. I don't even think Bin played bad, but I don't necessarily feel like he was that integral to the wins, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's lane swaps for you, right? The top laners.
Yeah, dude. I feel so bad for the superstar. Dude, the Shy would lose his fucking mind in lane swaps. He'd play like Zeus right now, actually, basically. Yeah. But worse, probably.
Yeah, 369 had a pretty rough tournament. I also think Bin is just not given the chance to shine because of there was just lane swaps over and over again in T1 versus BLG, which is fair, right? Because they're neutering the Senna TK. But yeah, I mean, I think to piggyback off of Knight, it does feel like he has his champions, right? He cannot play Azir, he can't play Corki, but his Talia is pretty cracked. It's probably the best in the world. His Talia is on another level. Faker, I think he had a really bad series against BLG. His Talia in game 2 was like the Ahri in game 5. It was just oh, okay, you're just the best player in the world for one game, and then you're just shit. It was pretty weird to see.
It was such a roller coaster. Oh,
it was because his Veigar was honestly quite bad. I did not like his Veigar. I mean, it was just a pretty mediocre pick. I don't like Vagar into Lucian Nami because you just get like culling down. You can't do anything against it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and his Akali was pretty bad too. Like his Akali, like the Akali Tristana matchup is something that I've always said is in favor of Tristana because even though you can always kind of duel Tristana sometimes. You can always kind of 1v1. A lot of people say it's a decent matchup because you can take Doran Shield Second Wind and blah, blah, blah. But, like, you just go Hex Drinker on Tristana and you just jump on Akali's face over and over again. You take Fleet and you just never lose lane. It's impossible. So I did not like the Akali pick at all. And this is also the series where we really saw why Zeus was bad at tanks. His Zac was okay to quite terrible, and his Cassante in game one was pretty bad. And his TF was honestly he got counterpicked into Jack, so I don't really blame him for that one.
Yep.
Yep. And then I think Gumayushi and Keria were just kind of invisible this series, right? I think Keria had a couple of pretty good plays on the Renata in game 4, but like they were just so invisible. So yeah,
I mean,
congrats
they
to
picked 3
BLG.
games to send a Tom Kench, right? Like it's
Yeah, still hard to show up, I guess. Yeah.
it was
But
hard.
yeah, that's the BLG talk. They honestly, it's hard to really comment on their series against PSG because they looked so unbelievably good against T1. So it just has to be a thing of effort, right? It has to be of they just stopped underestimating their opponents and they played to another level. Because yeah, June was cracked throughout most of the series. It was really really good. And then their bot lane Elk. Oh my God, Elk is just really really good, really really insane. Probably the best AD carry in this tournament. He was considered that before going in. He took a while to ramp up, but I think he's here. I think he's come to play. So let's talk about Gen G now. Gen G, they played Top Esports to 5 games. And then did they play? Oh, is that it? They only played one series? Wait, no, they should have played another one, right?
They
Oh yeah,
played
they
2,
3-0'd
didn't they?
Fnatic.
They played
Yeah, they 3-0'd
Fnatic, but
Fnatic.
it was so
I
quick that like what was there to say?
I forgot about it. Yeah, almost.
Well,
But
not
Gen
so
G,
quick. Okay, it was competitive. That's that.
it was.
I'm being facetious here.
Yes, yes, it was competitive. Gen G, honestly, pretty good showings on average, I think, kind of, but a couple sketchy stuff, I think, for oh yeah, Canyon. That's right. Canyon had quite a poor series against Top Esports. Yeah, so Gen G is not looking infallible by any means. Gen G is definitely has a lot of weak spots, and the weird one is it's not Chovy, it's not the Pays, it's actually Canyon, right? And Keen sometimes too. Keen is, I think he's still undefeated on the Cassante, but he was inting a lot. Like he would become really hard to kill, unstoppable, doing insane stuff, and then he would just try to 1v4, 1v5, and it's like, okay, you're really OP, but you're not that OP, okay? You can 1v2, you can do stupid shit in 1v3 scenarios, but you cannot just straight up 1v4 a team as Cassante. And he found himself inting multiple times doing that. So any thoughts on Gen G and the top esports or in general? Yeah, go ahead.
I would say this time it's just unfortunate. Like I've always said, Keen internationally is really underwhelming. Even last year on KT or just historically on Freaka, he just goes internationally. And he's not terrible, right? But he isn't good enough for what his namesake is. I will say in this tournament, like I mean, it's a lane swap. He's kind of put in pretty odd spots as well, and like 369 is also not the best lane swapper. It feels like, but I think 369 is on average just like a better player than Kane internationally. So I was like, okay, I don't blame it either way. They were both given the shittiest role in this meta, and
Yeah,
Kane played fine,
yeah, I think
ish.
so. Yeah,
I'm more concerned about their bot lane, if anything. Like Canyon was also underperforming, but like this isn't a series. If their bot lane's actually a competitive like Pace's KDA very good, 26, 11, 22. Wow, really good. But like him as a threat, I don't know. They gave him close to 4 times. This is an extremely high value pick. You know how many draft resources you need to commit to not only get Callisto, but also to get a comp around it.
yeah,
And like I felt he would. I don't remember a single like superstar play from him, and like maybe you
yeah,
don't need it normally, but this was a close series. So like, imagine they still had Ruler. Imagine they had Viper. Imagine they had a better AD carry. That's what I keep like Elk, Jackie Love.
Yeah.
If they had Yan, he's probably better than Pays, guys.
Oh my god.
I wish I was kidding, but like, I have stopped being delusional about individual player strength for a long time because we see these players who are giga good elsewhere go overseas, go to other teams, and if they don't have the structure around them, they will look bad. It doesn't matter who you are. Rookie looked bad on V5 toward the end. Like there's all these super god players that like at the end of the day, if your team can't help you, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do, right? So all to say is Pace has always had so much support, and like I'm sick of like at least in this meta apologizing for him saying like he's a top player. He's not, and I haven't said it, but like I'm sick of hearing it. I guess.
Yeah, I do think yeah, he's not as he just gets so much and does not enough with it. It feels like Hansama a bit, right? Like G2 does so much to get him fed and so much to put resources in him, and he doesn't deliver. He doesn't.
Yeah, like he's not an inter. He rarely power like feeds, which I think is why he doesn't get the flame. But
Yeah.
he's not the one who's like going to, unless it's on Aphelios. He's not the one that's gonna like flash forward and make a play to win the game when they're like at even / in trouble. He does not have that it factor at all. Well, meanwhile, like I watched JackeyLove, and he's like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's got Tien like sitting on him while he's playing.
Yeah, that's true.
Although Tien
That's
was
true.
good this series, he was pretty good.
Tien was
But
pretty clutch this series. I do think that the Cream was probably the biggest downside. Cream was both one of the biggest upsides in their wins and probably their biggest downsides for top esports of why they would lose. Like Cream had such a bad
yes,
Akali game 5. Oh my god.
yeah, it's such.
It was
And
really
if
bad.
the viewers don't know, Cream is known for Akali. Like he's actually a good Akali historically.
Yeah. He's like Zeka
So
kinda. He's really known for Akali and
yeah.
Sylas. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
And then, but let's talk about the man of the hour, the man that deserves no flame this tournament so far. Chovy is him, dude. Oh my god. Like, he makes Corki rockets look like single target point and click abilities. Like, his Corki rockets, I mean, I actually want to. They need to install Vanguard on his PC, is what I'm saying. Like, it looks like
He
he's
is not
cheating.
normal, dude.
Dude, it's
He's
not.
actually cheating.
It looks really, really unnaturally accurate. Like I am amazed at how good he is at Corki, and I am actually amazed at when he started first picking Corki. They said, "Yeah, pick whatever you want into me. We're gonna first pick Corki," because he started just winning whatever. Like I swear, this guy does not lose lane. He doesn't lose lane. He doesn't miss CS. He has insane. Like Corki is a perfect champion for him because it allows him to lane really well. It allows him to have 12 CS per minute. It allows him to poke people from afar. Like when you play stuff like Rise or like Akali or like other champions that he struggled to like have an impact on, Corki is one where it's like if you have the mechanics on Corki, you just nuke him from far away. Like it's all hands, right? You just have good aim, and that's him. And I feel like it's one of the perfect champions for him because like it
And
also gives
Corki
him
got
a
buffed
go.
right before MSI.
Yep, and it also he gets this go button where like he on other champions it feels like he's hesitant and scared. On Corki though, it feels like he just trusts himself to send it on the package. The amount of times I've seen this guy, okay, I saw him do this multiple times in LCK playoffs. He would flash package to initiate a team fight. No hesitation, take the package from base, run out, flash package. No stopping, no S keying, no hitting minions, just straight beeline, start a fight, win it. I'm like, okay. I mean, Chovy's a god. All right, so that's all I have to say about him. Really, really, really impressive stuff. He looks like the best player in the tournament by far. I think it's really hard to deny. And I gotta say, the second one might be Caps. Like he looks so good. Like it feels like it's Chovy versus Caps. God, I hope they have a showdown. I think for that showdown to happen, G2 has to do a lot of winning to even make it to see Chovy. But yeah, good
Not
stuff.
much.
Good stuff.
They're in the top 4. There's only so many games they have to play. But yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, well, if Genji beats BLG, right, then G2 has to beat both T1 and BLG to meet Genji. So it's two series. You have to
Yeah.
go through
10 games potentially to get to. So it sounds like quite a lot to me. I mean, they almost doubled their games.
That was all of
um,
MSI playoffs back in the day. So yeah, actually, that is a lot of games.
yeah, it's quite a lot. Okay, so this has been a really long podcast. I mean, deserved, right? This has been one of the most hyped tournaments we've
Yeah.
ever had. So let's talk about upcoming matches. So tonight at 1 a.m. So this podcast, if you're listening to it, unfortunately, it's probably not going to be out in time to listen before we give our predictions. So just enjoy our hindsight analysis. Um, Upcoming is BLG versus Gen G. God, do I hope this delivers, because this is looking like to be two Titans clashing. It's a rematch from last year. BLG was considered massive underdogs against Gen G, where it felt like Gen G almost didn't take them seriously, and BLG 3-0 slapped them really handedly. And we
Yeah.
know that's not going to happen again this time because BLG is the first seed. BLG is being talked about as the favorite of this tournament, and Gen G is finally looking like they have their star mid laner on form. So, what are your thoughts on Gen G versus BLG? Okay, I'm not sure if Kevin is with me anymore, so we're just gonna keep chatting. So I'm gonna give my thoughts on Gen G versus BLG here. Um, yes. So Gen G versus BLG is matchup with the Titans. I do think that Chovy is, I don't know. Chovy versus Knight is a tough one. I think Corki is going to be a heavy prio for him. Asol is going to be a big deal for Chovy as well. Talia is obviously going to be a big deal for Knight. I do think that matchups in top lane, oh my god, they have the same champion in top lane, right? Both top laners play a lot of Cassante and play a lot of Vayne, and can play TF. So I think TF is probably going to be favored for Keen, and the Jax is going to be favored for Bin. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic rolls because, well, let's be honest, there's only 5 bans, and if you want to play TF, it's very likely to get a Jax counter pick. So sounds like it's in terms of champion pool, it's probably favored towards Bin. Um, I think that the jungle matchup, it does feel like June is outperforming Canyon on average. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Both were willing to play the Nidalee, which is kind of fascinating. So we'll see. Kind of like, are they going to pick Nidalee into each other? Right? Who's Nidalee's going to reign supreme? Kevin, welcome back. I'm just talking about the matchup between Canyon and Zun. They both played
Mhm.
Nidalee. I think Zun on average is performing better than Canyon, but they both have within themselves really high clutch factor, right? I think that both are really talented junglers. They have wide champion pools and that they can play supportive champions like Sejuani and Maokai, and they can play carry champions like Nidalee or Kha'Zix or Vi or stuff like that, Lee Sin even. So I'm not sure how that's going to go down. I actually kind of favor Jun. So I was talking about Bin before too, where Bin and Keen have almost the same champion pools, and they're both neutered by lane swaps. But the
Yeah.
difference is that Keen is really good on Twisted Fate, but Bin is really good on Jax. And well, Jax is a pretty hard counter to TF, so I kind of like Bin's chances there. I also like Zun's chances in the jungle just slightly, just due to consistency. But the mid lane, Chovy versus Knight, I gotta give it to Chovy. I just think he has a champion Ocean. I think that his Corki is going to be really powerful and high prio. I think his Asol is like probably just going to be next level powerful. Um, their only weaknesses, right, is that Chovy doesn't play Orianna, and Knight is an Orianna god, and Knight doesn't play Azir, and Chovy is an Azir god. So we'll see how that really shakes out. Azir's not looking too good in this tournament. So Orianna might be high prio, Talia is high prio, Asol and Corki high prio. So we'll see how that breaks down. And then we'll go to the bot lane. It's going to be Pays and Lahens versus Elk and On, right? So I just feel like it's very BLG favored in the bot lane.
Yeah.
I just think Elk has shown so much more carry potential and just high APM next level mechanics than Pays has in a long time. And then on the Hens feel like the same players almost. Just really good facilitators with decent chances of popping off, but otherwise they're mostly role players. They're mostly there to kind of just fill in the gaps of what their team needs. So, any thoughts on Gen G versus BLG, and who do you think's taking it? What's the series going to look like?
I think it's 3-1. BLG is going to probably beat Genji again. I think last time 3-0 is under preparedness, right? But like they just strictly upgraded. Like Knight is just better Yagao in almost every sense, except in the weird cases where Yagao does like sometimes beat top tier players, right? And then we don't get it why. Like last year at MSI, where he beat Chovy, and I'm sitting like, why is he beating Chovy? He's not the same realm. So
Yeah.
Yagao is the difference. So I'm going to point out two things. I agree with you. Azir, not that good. Even Chovy 1-1 on it. But Chovy's only played 3 characters, including Azir, this whole goddamn tournament. He's played Corki, Azir, and Aesol.
Yeah.
So I he does have a champion Ocean, but like as I said with Faker too, right? Maybe not on this podcast like recently, but like as I always say, like yes, Faker is like 84 or 83 legacy career champions, but if you can't play them right now at the level you need to beat Knight, I don't care. Now
Yeah.
I don't think Chovy actually has that issue in terms of like what he could pull out. Like if he pulls out Tristana and just starts smashing, like yeah, I'm not surprised at all, right? It also
Yeah.
fits that archetype of like farmer, hyper carry, long range, space
Yeah.
given, right? I think where Knight has the edge here is like the playmaking potential when because Azir isn't there. If Azir was here, Chovy should have the edge. But we've never seen this matchup, and I think with the playmaking potential, both Talia and Orianna, like characters that are currently, especially Talia, I haven't. I'm concerned that Chovy hasn't picked Talia yet. I think he can play it and well enough to beat Knight, but the fact that he hasn't pulled it out, and we've seen Corki get neutralized pretty handily multiple times now by Talia, makes me think that Knight has the edge in this theoretical never before seen matchup that I'm extremely excited about. I'm also
Oh,
agree
okay.
with you. Shun is better than Canyon right now. I think Canyon historically is probably one of the best, if not the best junglers.
Oh, okay. Uh, Looks like we lost Kevin mid sentence. Really awkward.
Really?
Just letting the viewers
Oh,
know he is on hotel Wi-Fi in Hawaii, so we have to cut him some slack. It's okay, bro.
it's weird. I
But
can hear you.
oh, you're back. Okay, welcome back. Continue talking, sir.
Yeah,
Keep it
no, no.
going.
Where did I die at? Faker
Uh,
or Chovy versus Knight?
Chovy versus Knight. Yeah, excited to see this never before seen matchup. Stuff like
Yep.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I said I agree with you. Shun is probably better than Cannon. I do think Cannon's probably the best jungler of recent history. It's weird because no jungler has actually been dominant like multiple years at the international level.
Yeah.
But Cannon has the body of work, and like that 1v that game 5 Kane game last year, I was like, damn,
Oh,
he
yeah.
like
Yeah.
he is him, right?
Yeah.
So with all the restrictions that junglers have to face, like very few jungler goats are that consistent. Like Yankos comes to mind too, but Yankos just like currently hasn't been that good or not. He has been good, but he hasn't been on a good team. Anyways, I'll say I agree with that. I think bot lane's going to get bodied. I think Elk and Olm were like, no, they were not rookies, but they weren't given international spotlight, and they've just gotten better. And they have a better enabler, a similar enabler who has a better hands. I like across the board. I'm like, it's either good matchups or like favorable, except for mid maybe, where
Hmm.
I'm really excited. But the Faker matchup makes me think while Chovy is built different as Corki, is might not make a difference.
Yeah, we'll see if he even gets it, right? I actually am
That's true.
expecting Corky bans, just because he looks too good on it. And, a lot of people are banning against Gen G. They ban Senna, they ban TF maybe, and they ban like Asol or something, or Azir or something, or maybe you can, maybe you go the 80 carry route where you ban like, Varus and Callista and Lucian and Ashe and Draven and Tristan, like all this bullshit, right? But I think you can easily replace the Asol bans that we see a lot against him with the Corki ban, and we'll see if the Asol has as much power as Corki. Because I know it's crazy to say that, considering Asol is one of the biggest scalers in the entire tournament, or in the entire game. Corki feels like it scales better just because there's so much uninteractivity. You just nuke them from far away with ultis, right? And when you have as high accuracy as Chovy, kind of unnatural, kind of god gaming. All right, so let's move on. Let's go talk about T1 versus G2.
Wait, did you give your prediction number wise though?
No, I didn't. Okay, never mind. Okay,
We gotta put that on record. Don't you wiggle out of this, buddy. This is a tight matchup. We're not gonna just say,
Yeah.
oh, but I thought that Genji would win or whatever.
Yeah, no, I got caught. Okay, I'm gonna go.
I DC through it. I was like, oh damn.
No, I didn't give it. You said BLG 3-1 Genji.
Yeah, BLG 3-1.
You know, I
BLG
literally talked about how in most matchups and roles, Genji was worse than BLG, right?
Yeah, yes you did.
Fuck. I was thinking of predicting Genji though. Oh god, because I really want Chovy to freaking win, man. Like
Yeah.
Chovy has become.
Dude, Chovy versus Caps in the finals. So can you believe that?
I mean, even if Genji loses, as long as G2 beats T1,
Oh,
then
true.
they'll run into each other again,
Oh.
right? Like whoever wins from the lower bracket has to go all the way
Oh
to
my
the
god,
top.
I love this tournament. This is
Yeah,
so
this
good.
tournament-
There's
this
the
tournament's so
only
good.
bad result would just be Genji 3-0's T1 in the finals.
Yeah, that would be the bad. But then T1 makes it after all their struggles, still to the finals. It's still crazy. Everything leading up to that to the finals would be great. Also, I would love it.
That's true.
I would even love the storyline of Genji meets T1 in the finals and still wins, but it's a 3-2. Because then it's like, okay, T1 is clutch god. I can't believe they made it to the finals, but Genji's still their father. Like that would be a cool storyline. I would like that too, because it happens
Yeah, but they just
internationally.
did that. They just did a 3-2 in the LCK finals a couple weeks ago.
I'm okay with that because
Okay,
it's
I'll never argue
international.
against a 3-2. You're right.
Because it's
International's
choky.
a different game.
It's choky, man. I would love
Oh
it.
my
I would
God.
love it.
Who would win,
so-
Genji International or Choki?
I'm gonna go Genji. Oh my god. Do you know
what? We just
you know
had a
how-
whole conversation
I know,
mutually agree
I know,
across the
I
board it's
know.
favored or
I know.
even. But
It's
Genji's
literally
the better brand name? What is this?
No, I think Chovy overcomes all the weaknesses the side laners have. Because it really feels like
Okay.
every other player from BLG is better than Genji. But Chovy, I think, is better than Knight. And I am praying to the Church of Chovy because, dude, I've wanted this guy to succeed. Okay, so here's the problem. Everybody who wants Chovy to succeed, everybody who wants him to win, they always get stabbed in the back. Every time you predict Genji internationally, they let you down. It's always happened year
Yep.
after year. It's never not happened.
You keep eating that razor cake, buddy.
So fuck it. We keep going. We go. We ball. Fuck it, we ball. I'm voting Genji 3-2 in a tight, close-knit banger where honestly I think Keen is on average worse than Bin. But I think Keen's Vayne is better than Bin's Vayne, and I think his Cassante is better than Bin's Cassante. I just think on average, as general, Bin, it doesn't matter if he's worse on the champions he's playing, he's just mega clutch, right? He's just a mega team fighter. But Keen,
Yes.
he mechanically looks better on his champions, I think, in this tournament. On
Yes.
Vayne, on Cassante, and on TF. But Bin is just him, right? So I'm going to say that, you know what, Keen is going to become him. I think Keen is going to ascend into a different level, and he has to because this is like his second international tournament ever, and that if we all believe in the Keen hype train, this is where he has to prove it. He has to put it all on the line to show that he deserves his spot to be here. So I'm betting. I'm a gambler, okay? I'm gambling on religion, and it's not a good idea. Don't do this at home, kids. But I'm taking it. Genji 3-2.
I'm so confused, but you know what? You're free to your opinion.
I just want Chovy to win, okay?
That's understandable, and if Chovy wins, I wouldn't be mad because he does deserve it. I've flamed him for being choky, but this tournament, he's playing on such a level that it would be disappointing if he doesn't win.
It would be unreal because, like, he is so good, dude. He's so good.
He's
All right,
the
let's
closest
move on.
thing for a while to a perfect player, especially if you weigh only his domestic. Even international,
Dude.
he's like leveled up recently.
Yeah.
It's just when you lose to like Yagao, and you're just like, it's not close, and you're just sitting like, what? How did you get capped by Yagao in 2023?
or his legendary Rise play where you flash ulti and there's nobody there. I just love it. I just love it. I love Chovy. He's my favorite player almost. Like he's one of my favorite
Dude,
players.
watch if Chovy joined KT. Do you think they'd both cancel each other out?
I have no idea. I don't know. Do you think if Chovy ever went to China, if things would have been different? I always wonder that idea, right? So
I
many,
think so. I think
yeah.
if he
How
had
did?
just like a better, he's been stuck in like at least they got King this year. He was stuck
Yeah.
in Doran jail for so long, and I was like, what is going? Like, why is Chovy so loyal to his org? Like, props to him, but his org
Yeah.
is not giving him international success. It is giving him domestic success, which honestly is worth a lot.
Hey, 4P is nothing to scoff at. I'm pretty sure Double Up is
Yeah,
retiring on that money for forever on that 4P money. So all
that's
right,
true.
let's talk about T1 versus G2, our first rematch of the entire tournament. This is some good food. This is this is some delicious gourmet. Mmm. Thank you, Riot. Thank you, MSI. Who's gonna take it? Last time it was a really fun, one of the coolest series. G2 versus T1 at MSI is just a legendary fated matchup. I mean, they have ran into each other so many times throughout the years, and finally, it feels like is T1 the underdog? Even though they literally just beat them, is T1 not considered the favorites as much? Like what's gonna happen here? G2 versus T1. Talk to me about it.
Dude, of course T1's the underdog. What have we been like? I know you were saying just rhetorical questions, but I'm just gonna be obnoxious and be like, dude, it's not close. And the reason why, and this isn't just me just saying it for the clicks. The reason why is because T1 throughout this tournament, like we're watching Faker just like crumble because there's too much pressure. They're not just from like the gank stuff. There's just too much pressure to direct this team, and you can just see it obviously in the BLG series against another world class team. Like I don't think Knight is actually 2 solo kills better than Faker, right, in a series. But I'm just like he's got to tab around. He got flicked. Oh, he's dead, or
No.
he's got to like he's got to do so much. This is my theory. I'm sticking with it, and they lost with a lot of my like G2 made a lot of mistakes, and you are watching them power up from there. I don't think that I don't think T1 comes out of that BLG smacking the last 2 games in their mind, and they're like, "Man, Caps is so much weaker than Knight. I'm sure we'll win this one." No, I think they're gonna be like, "Fuck, where's our in?" And I think the key, the real key to this is I don't think T1's drafts have been that
No.
inspiring, and I think G2 is like cooking some dank shit. Like they
Yeah.
might overcook sometimes, like that Belveth draft, but when they made Ivern, Camille, to like all single target Tristana and like all of that work
Leona.
together, I was like, all right, you know what? You guys know something I don't. That actually, like, that's the first time in a long time where I like watched them cook against a not a top team, but like a very high level team,
A good
literally a
team.
top team, actually top
Yeah.
esports, so a top team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and they did it. They executed and absolutely like tilted the shit out of the enemy. I think T1 should be terrified, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and they know how to build LDR. Like for the memes, like it's
Yeah.
to me, I think it's a 3-2 because that is like the destiny of these two teams. But
Yeah.
I think it's a 3-2 where G2 is in control 4 out of the 5 games, and they throw one.
Sure. Yeah. 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 I'm not gonna disagree with you. I can't. It's the Western hype train. It is literally like all of our hopes and dreams are lying in this series just to make it hype, to make it spicy. Broken Blade and Hans Sama representing North America. Like it just feels like we have to believe. I have to predict G2. I can't not predict G2.
Oh God,
It's
it's
too
this
hype.
shit.
It's too hype. It's too awesome. It's too good. I want G2 to win MSI, honestly. I want G2 to make it all the way.
Uh
I
huh.
don't know if they're
Uh
going to
huh.
do it, but man, their drafts are legendary, right? There's so many power picks for G2 that they have looked unstoppable on. Zac for Broken Blade. Rek'Sai for Yike. Now he's thrown in Ivern as well. Tristana for Caps. Oriana for Caps. Um, Hansama is finally coming alive. It feels like he can actually play the champions he's been given, right? His Kalista was looking good against top esports. They can always throw in the Jinx, right? His Jinx wasn't looking great against T1, but he definitely feels like he overcame some demons. He learned how to trust in himself and to actually right click people. And if he can play at that level on the Jinx, and they can do the strategy again. Guess what? G2 wins game 5 simply with a single different item purchase. Guaranteed. I bet you a bajillion dollars that if Jinx built LDR third item, G2 wins, and they would be facing off in a totally different alternate reality. But yeah, I think Mickey X is also completely outclassing and outshining Keria. You have to ban Poppy. Well, now he's got Leona. Oh, he looked pretty good on Renata too. Like, what are you gonna do against these teams? Against this, what is T1 going to ban? What is T1 going to take away against G2? It feels like there's so much to think about. And yeah, it's the mentality and the drafting and the preparedness of the meta, right? When you have to worry about all these variables, G2 is in their comfort zone, right? And T1 is clearly not in their comfort zone. They are relying on like dormant clutch powers to stay in this tournament. They're relying on factors that are not related to the current meta and the current times. Like they're getting by on like nepotism and like I don't know
Legacy, essentially.
legacy, right? Like they're clutching it out in scenarios where they have no business clutching it out, but really they're just not very good right now. So um, it's not T1's fault that it is the way it is, but hey, G2, it's not their fault that they have to play on 30 ping, right? So there it is, right? We're on equal playing ground. There's no copium allowed. And it's just a battle to the death elimination match. G2 3-2. Oh my god, it rhymes. It's too delicious. Too
I
good.
am scared because I did vote T1 to win this whole thing, and like I know the second I flip flop, it's over. So
Yeah.
I am terrified, but I have to go with like the West. And actually, for once, last time G2 did it, it was also close, but this time I feel like even more confident than last time G2 did it at MSI actually, because I'm sitting here and I'm just like looking across and I'm like, there's a super flawed team over there on the T1 side, and a team that's hotter than ever on the G2 side who has the right strengths as well.
And Broken Blade, I'm gonna be honest, man. He looks like one of the best top laners in the tournament. Yeah, we can say Bin might be better, maybe Keen might be better, Zeus at a different time might be better, but no one has a champion pool like Broken Blade. Okay, nobody's playing Yasuo. He has the best Zac in the tournament. His I just think that Broken Blade is just a master chef right now, right? Bin might be mechanically better or Key might be mechanically better, but Broken Blade has the champion pool on his side. And it is just awesome to see.
What a world we
So,
live in to say BB is better than Zeus in a head-to-head and in
yeah,
general.
and it
I
feels good. It
He's
feels
earned
right
it.
to say it. Yeah, it feels really good and right to say it. He outperformed him in their first series for sure. So, yeah, there it is, guys. That's it. That's what our predictions are going. You know what? I think that we're just gonna leave the mystery to the rest of it, right? Like we had different predictions. Like I said Gen G, you said BLG. We both said G2. That means that never mind. We have to predict, right? Who's gonna
We have to
win?
predict who's gonna win at least. We might not know the
Okay,
matchup.
who's gonna win? Who's winning it?
It's it's gonna be BLG.
It's gonna be BLG.
These guys
Oh
deserve a
my
championship. They've
god.
slain the Koreans so many times already, and this time they've got pretty much all they need, right? They have the momentum. They beat T1, right? The other strong team, and they used to historically have a better matchup in Genji. Now, of course, Genji has switched support and jungle, or support jungle and top, but I think the Yagao switch out is such a power up for BLG that I still favor them. So after that, do we really think that G2 can beat BLG or BLG can lose there? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll never say. I think definitely when it comes to meta and champion pool, BLG is a bit more diverse than what T1 can offer, right? June bringing out the Nidalee is very unexpected. I think, I actually think, fuck, I don't know. I think the winner of the Genji BLG series probably wins the tournament. I think you're probably right in that area. So you predicted BLG to beat Gen G, and then you predicted them to win the
Yep.
tournament. I think that's pretty fair. I predicted BLG at the beginning before the tournament even started, and I don't even want to believe it. Man.
It's the
You
most
know what?
vanilla answer. I'll give you that.
It is the most vanilla. I'm gonna go Gen G. I'm flip
Okay.
flopping. We're all flip flopping. We're mega flip flopping.
Oh,
I
I mean, we
think
saw the tournament now, so it makes
yeah.
sense.
If Gen G beats BLG, I think that Gen G is going to win the tournament. I
Division.
think
Okay.
that's how it's gonna go down. We'll see, though. I think that the biggest dark horse. So normally in past times, I think there's a lot of predictions you can make. Like I think last year, right? T1 versus Weibo Gaming in the finals. I think you could say it's like a 90% chance that T1 wins, right? I think this is one of those rare tournaments where I'm predicting Gen G, but it's not like they have a 90% chance to win. They don't even have a 50% chance to win, okay? I'm giving them like 40, 45% chance. I'm giving like BLG like 30, I'm giving G2 like 25%, T1 like 15, something where the math adds up to 100, right? So I think that the
Uh-huh.
playing field is very close. It's very tight, and that it's going to be dependent on just tiny little edges. And I think that the world where G2 wins, where Western fans are hyped, is a world where G2 comes out with one extra wrinkle. Okay, they had lots of wrinkles to bring out against T1. They had extra wrinkles to bring out against Top Esports. If they can pull out one more stop, one more trick in the bag, I think they can actually do it. I just think it's so hard to do that, though, right? They've exhausted so many champions. Like, there's so many unique champions that they've pulled out. It is hard to find a couple others to really make it work against the best players. But if they do it, man, it would be one of the most legendary runs ever. Like G2 has the chance to cement themselves as just one
One
of
of
the
the
greatest in the
go
world.
to orgs, right?
One of the
Because they already
they
have a great
yeah.
record compared to everyone not named T1 and Samsung.
Yeah, they do. They have a pretty good record in general, but like to win MSI in modern day League of Legends, this is like League of Legends is just not the same as 2019. It's just not even close to the same. These days,
2019, they
Asian
beat
team.
Team Liquid to get. I mean, they got T1 too, but they didn't beat the actual best team at the tournament. Team Liquid beat the best team at the tournament before that.
Well, I also think the level of play, the level of macro, the level of skill that existed back in 2019 is not the same as 2024.
Hmm.
I think like Chovy from 2024 is better than any player has ever seen. Like 2024 Chovy would like smack 2019 players without even thinking, with no hesitation, because the skill level has gotten so much higher in 5 years, right? So, um,
I agree.
I think
I agree,
I think
but
it'd be a
we'll
great
actually
game.
see when he plays in an important match. Because
It's true.
he's
True.
been scaling up every year, but the path is still the same. Like the peak of that tournament usually, and then when it matters.
True, true, true. We shall see. I'm voting for the Church of Chovy. You're voting for BLG, the number one seeds from LCK and LPL. We are Western doubters because I think we both secretly would be extremely hyped if G2 won MSI. But we shall find out. We will all find out. So try not to be too toxic. I'm excited to see what happens, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace!